Hi everyone, welcome. In this video, we are talking about color theory and how it pertains to watercolor. We're going to talk about mixing and the different types of color combinations that you can make and why you need to know those. We're also going to be doing a fun little project where we blend colors together with an option to sketch over the top of them at the end. You might be most familiar with the red, yellow, and blue color theory, but today we're going to be using the yellow, magenta, and cyan color theory, which produces brighter colors and is used in printing. I really love this for watercolor. I'm using Opera Rose for magenta and turquoise for cyan because I felt like they represented those colors the best. And I'm placing the colors at kind of the points of where a triangle would be spread apart. So now to create the secondary colors in our color wheel, we are mixing two primary colors together in an even mixture. So here I'm mixing yellow and magenta together to make sure that both colors are represented evenly. It's not leaning yellow and it's not leaning magenta. And you'll see we've actually created red. So that's the interesting thing about this color theory is using yellow and magenta, secondary color becomes red. The reason I like to paint the secondary color first is because now I can just add a little bit of yellow to that mixture we already have, and we get our first tertiary color. So it's obviously leaning more yellow. Then I add a little bit of magenta to the mixture we already have, and now it's leaning more magenta without being pure magenta. So that's how we can get those mixtures that are in between the secondary and the primary colors, and they're called tertiary colors. So now we're going to mix up the secondary color between magenta and cyan, and that is purple. So again, I'm just making sure that this purple is not leaning blue and is not leaning magenta. So I just go back and forth between adding the paint until I feel like it's an even mixture. Now, one of the things that helps me to know in this case that it's an even mixture is when you add more cyan to purple, you actually get the color blue. So blue ends up becoming a tertiary color, which is kind of cool. So cyan and purple makes blue. And then you add more magenta to that mixture we already had, and you get what they call magenta purple. So it's just a really pretty bright purple color. I love that color. Now we're going to mix cyan with yellow to get, as you guessed, green. And it's a very beautiful, bright green. And I wouldn't focus too much on making sure that your mixtures are exactly 50-50 equal because there's just no way to measure that. The only way you'll be able to tell if something is equal is just by how it looks to you. And because you're human, there's going to be error in that in some way. Because now looking back at this, I'm thinking that that green leans a lot more cyan than I would have liked. So that's on me. I should have added more yellow. That's okay, I'm human. But then I add a little bit more cyan to this mixture, and I get a beautiful blue-green between those two. And then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to that existing mixture and get that beautiful yellow-green chartreuse color. That is one of my absolute favorite colors. It is so punchy and bright. And with the completion of this color, we have all 12 of our colors. So the primary colors, secondary, and tertiary colors represented. Now we're going to talk about complementary colors. Complementary colors are opposite of each other on the color wheel. So an example of this would be green and magenta, purple and yellow, and blue and orange. Now you might ask yourself, why does it even matter that I know what complementary colors are? Well, complementary colors actually mute each other. So if you mix an even ratio of complementary colors together, like here I'm doing yellow and purple, you actually cancel the colors out. So the color becomes gray. And this works with every color that is opposite of each other on the color wheel. You will cancel the colors out and get a gray, dull color for each one. It's also important to know that complementary colors enhance each other. So when they're next to each other in a painting, they increase the contrast and the interest in the painting just by being together. The next type of grouping is called analogous colors, and it is 3 or more colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And these colors enhance each other, they act as accents and contrast. The next color grouping we're going to be talking about is triadic colors. Triadic colors are 3 colors that are evenly spaced on the color wheel, making the points of a triangle. So like we talked about in the beginning, the primary colors of cyan, magenta, and yellow create a triadic grouping. There's also 3 other triadic groupings. There is the bright yellow-green with the red, magenta, and blue. Then there is green, red, and purple. Blue, green, magenta, purple, and orange. Triadic colors are just another way to create a harmonious color palette that adds a lot of contrast with accent colors. And how do you make black? Well, you take all of the colors on the color wheel and you mix them together to get black. So really, if you want to mix black in a more simple way, cyan, magenta, and yellow will get black. Now, as I'm mixing all of this and I even put it on the paper, I feel like it is leaning purple. So how do I fix that? I add yellow because yellow cancels out purple, which goes back to our complementary colors. And you can see how much more black that gets. Beautiful. Color theory working right in front of our eyes. So just as a reminder, yellow, cyan, and magenta make black. And as I was painting this, I remembered something I wanted to tell you about complementary colors. If you add the tiniest bit of a color's complement, like I'm adding purple to yellow in the tiniest bit, it doesn't neutralize yellow, but it darkens it enough to become a shadow. So this is how you make shadow colors for your paintings, is you just add the tiniest bit of a color's complement and you get the perfect darker hue that looks very pleasing to the eye when you want to make shadows on any object that you want to paint. So same here for the magenta with the green. Adding a little bit of green to the magenta makes such a pretty darker rose color, and vice versa. Adding magenta to the green makes a beautiful green color, and I use this technique a lot in my floral paintings to get a deeper rose color and a deeper, more natural looking green color. Now I'm going to turn my paper and we're going to do an exercise in blending. So I'm getting rid of some of that black on my palette and I'm starting with the bright yellow green. And I'm taking inspiration from what I have on my color wheel and my charting here. So I'm doing the bright yellow green, which made me want to do the triadic colors in that lower left group you can see right there. The next color is that magenta red. So then I did magenta red next to that, and it's just amazing how beautiful those colors are together that I probably never would have put next to each other. And then the next color is blue. And those 3 colors together and watching them blend is just a really fun exercise. And then I just started adding more colors from my palette to get continuous blending technique. So with this technique, you just want to make sure that you have enough water to pigment on your brush, that it's runny enough that everything blends. If it's too dry, you won't get a good blend, and if it's too wet, it will blend too much. And circles are just the best for this technique. I could paint a million touching circles. Now I'm going to make some fun shapes using an analogous pattern of color. And again, that's 3 or more colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So I'm sticking to the colors that I have marked off on my color wheel, but it's really any 4 colors that are connected to each other on the color wheel are analogous. So I'm doing bright yellow, orange, red, red magenta, and then I'm going to do magenta at the end because I had space for it. But I just love how these colors go so well together. They're very pleasing to the eye when you see them all together. It's a very gradual shift from the yellow all the way to the magenta. Now for this last line, I'm just doing some kind of squiggle marks that are following the triadic color scheme of the green, blue, magenta, purple, and orange. And they're just so beautiful together. It makes me want to go paint something with this color scheme right now. It's just not something I normally gravitate to are, these three colors, but they sure are gorgeous. And then I also did the triadic colors of yellow, magenta, and cyan, which are our primary colors as well. And if you can believe it, every single color on this paper was painted with only those three colors from my palette. So you don't need an extensive palette to create every color you can imagine. And after all of your circles and shapes have dried, feel free to sketch over the top of it with a colored pencil or a pen. This is a great activity in relaxation for adults and children. I did this with my school class this week and they loved it. So let me know what you think down below. Was this a helpful color theory video for you? And do you like the cyan, magenta, yellow color wheel? I'll see you all next time. Bye.